Hello! We have 3 stories today. Our first story comes from Tales from Tech Support as a malicious compliance crossover. One man tirelessly works to idiot proof a job site to only be undone by just a bit in story 1. I was sitting at my desk early on a Friday afternoon when my phone rang. It was Kevin. This wasn't going to go well. Kevin started off by saying, "I'm assembling the units for customer and one of the boards failed the testing." "Swap out the bad board with another one. I'll look at the bad board later." "I can't, it won't come out." "What?" "Don't touch anything. I'll be right there." I worked at a small company. Everybody had extra duties in addition to their official jobs. The head engineer was also the network admin and handled all support for network issues. The head programmer was also the sysadmin and was tech support for the servers. In addition to my official duties, I was also tech support for all issues related to assembly and testing of our product. The extra tasks kept interfering with our real jobs, so more help was needed. Enter Kevin. Kevin was hired directly by the CEO, bypassing all of the unnecessary hiring procedures, such as verifying that he was competent. As far as the CEO was concerned, Kevin was some kind of golden child who could do no wrong, despite all evidence to the contrary. Our company sold a specialized, expensive product. Each unit cost far more than my annual salary. It consisted of a main chassis into which multiple accessory boards could be installed. The boards locked securely into place, but as extra insurance against them vibrating loose during shipping, each board was also held in place with 4 tiny screws. For reasons, we used posi-drive screws. Posi-drive screws have a plus sign recess that looks very much like the more common, in the US, Phillips screw heads, except the slots are parallel instead of tapered. A Phillips screwdriver will not fit correctly, and trying to use one will likely damage either the screw head or the screwdriver. The assembly manual had very clear instructions to only use posi-drive screwdrivers and that the screws must be tightened only by hand. They must also only be tightened until fingertip snug. Each assembly workbench had a copy of the manual. A laminated, full-page, bright yellow highlighted warning to only use posi-drive screwdrivers when installing the boards was mounted. It was at each bench in a location that would be impossible to miss. 2 of the correct posi-drive screwdrivers were attached to each assembly bench with anti-static tethers. It was so it would be impossible for the correct screwdriver to be out of reach when assembling a unit. Also, there was nothing in the entire lab that used Phillips screws. Every Phillips screwdriver was removed from the lab so it would be impossible to accidentally grab the wrong screwdriver. We made sure that every multi-bit driver set in the lab contained the correct posi-drive bits, and all of the Phillips bits were removed. Uh-oh, I think we know where this is going. All powered screwdrivers were banished from the lab. Clearly, it would take a very special talent to make a mistake with this part of the assembly. Kevin apparently had that talent. I entered the lab to see Kevin struggling to remove one of the screws from the bad board, using a Phillips screwdriver. The screw head was completely stripped out, with nothing left for the driver to grip. Not just this one, but all 4 screws on this board, and all 4 screws on each of the other 2 boards in this chassis, and on all 3 boards in each of the other 2 units in the order. Kevin had used a powered screwdriver with a removable Phillips bit to install all of the screws. Instead of stopping when they were snug, he kept on grinding away until the screw heads were completely drilled out, all 36 of them. Where did the Phillips screwdriver come from? Kevin explained that he noticed that there were no Phillips screwdrivers in the lab, so he went to the hardware store and bought a new set for each bench. He also picked up a bunch of replaceable Phillips bits because they somehow seemed to be missing from all of the sets. And he brought his own power driver from home, so his hands wouldn't get tired. I had to use a tiny chisel to cut a slot into what little metal was left of each screw head, so that I could get a grip on it and with a tiny flathead screwdriver. After removing the bad board, I was able to diagnose the problem. The board was fine. Metal filings from the destroyed screws had fallen inside and were shorting some connections together. Aftermath. I kicked Kevin out of the assembly lab and spent the rest of the day removing all of the boards, cleaning out the metal shavings, and then correctly reinstalling them. They all passed their tests. By the time I was finished, we had missed the last shipping pickup for the day, and so the units had to be shipped out on the following Monday. The CEO blamed me for the delay because it was apparently my fault, not Kevin's, that the units were not ready on time. In the comments, Own Cupcake said, "With the extra effort of being stupid, it's amazing the people that still find the energy. Good story." Red Hair Archer shared a quote. "A common mistake that people make when trying to design something completely foolproof is to underestimate the ingenuity of complete fools." Douglas Adams. Jack Insomniac added, "Make something idiot-proof and they'll build a better idiot." OP, I feel for you. It's bad enough to be blamed for something that was not your fault. Even worse when it is due to pure and utter stupidity. Kevin is obviously a liability. Granted, it doesn't sound like there are any cutting implements. He should not be in a production-based job. He's going to lose a finger or something similar. And with the CEO's protection, it will take that much to get rid of him. It's unfortunate, but Kevin really needs to be fired for his own protection. Our second story brings us back to proper malicious compliance form as one delivery driver holds a crotchety supervisor to his power trip, despite many attempts to backtrack. Story 2. Been sitting on this story for a few months now. I work for a small moving company in my city. We move furniture and decor to many different places throughout the city. We got a call about moving a large load of bookshelves to a rather large industrial building. We loaded up 2 18-foot box trucks full of shelves and were ready to move. When we arrived at the building, we pulled around to the loading dock and began offloading the shelves. As we were bringing stuff off the truck, I went to building security to open the door. There had been a recent string of shootings in our area and everyone was locking all the doors. They handed me a doorstop and told me I could prop the door open since we had a large load. So I propped open the door and we got going. We no more had the first pallet of the truck when the building's maintenance manager came running towards us. He screamed at us, "What are you doing? You cannot have that door propped open." Now, this man looked like he was somewhere between the ages of 76 and 105. He was as red as I've ever seen anyone. I calmly told him that security gave me a doorstop and told me since we have such a large load, we could keep the door propped open. Of course, he wasn't having it. "I don't care what security told you, you cannot have this door propped open." At this point, my Native American temper got the better of me. I replied, "Yes, sir." I walked over to the door and picked up the doorstop. I walked back to security and explained the situation. They rolled their eyes and explained that this crotchety old fossil is always causing problems all over the building. They told me I could still prop open the door, but now I was mad and was feeling petty. He doesn't want us to prop the door open? Alrighty then. There was a buzzer outside of the door, so I buzzed security asking them if they could open the door. Well, guess whose office was right by said door, and thus guess who security called to open the door and let us in? That's right, Fossil Man. That was 2 days older than dirt. He opened the door and let us in. We made our delivery and came back to grab another pallet. I again buzzed security and they again asked Fossil Man to let us in. This happened twice more before he stopped me and said, "You know, if you wanted to keep that door open, you can, since you have such a big load." I replied with the biggest smile on my face, "Oh no, sir. This door cannot be propped open. I wouldn't want to upset anyone by doing that." He looked at me with a look on his face that was somewhere between murderous and the realization that he had made a huge mistake. 18 pallets later, we had the load delivered, and every single time, guess who had to let us in? It took us a little over 2 hours to get everything finished. The last pallet we delivered, I poked my head into Fossil Man's office and said, "Thank you so much for your help." I'm pretty sure he popped a blood vessel. Edit. Since so many people want to pick apart the smallest details of this story, the loading doors were basically a giant set of French doors. The building was built way back in the 60s and wasn't designed with a modern garage-style loading door. In the comments, Coder Joe said, "Fossil Man promoted himself to doorman." HMS Slartibartfast replied, "Doorman or doorstop?" Ace of Nations said, "Props to security for making sure the consequences landed on the idiot who created the problem." Coder Joe added, Sure, but no props to the door. OP, your story proves that wisdom does not always come with age. There is nothing worse than a power tripper. Well, maybe someone that thinks they're better than you. And it seems like Fossil Man here is hitting up on both. He made your job all the harder, and you simply returned the favor. Our third story is short, but feels like a happy ending as a jerk can't stand someone else getting a discount, which ends up costing him more than he bargained for in story 3. I used to work as a bouncer slash doorman at a bar that charged a $2 cover on weekend nights. Everyone paid to get in with only one exception: party buses. We had an agreement with the different party bus operators that if they brought their groups to our bar, they would get in for free. Lively crowds are good for business. So one night, I'm working, and a guy comes in with his girlfriend, and I tell him it's $2 a head. He grumbles about it, and I give him the same line I tell anyone who complains. A $2 cover is the cheapest thing you will buy here tonight. If you can't afford it, you might want to go somewhere else. He doesn't want to look cheap in front of his lady, so of course he pays. A couple minutes later, he's back, saying he just talked to some people who didn't have to pay and wants to know why he got singled out. I tell him about the party bus rule and say those people must have come in on a bus. He motions towards some people sitting with his girlfriend and tells me, "You didn't charge my friends and they didn't come on a bus." I recognized the people, and when they came in, I asked them if they were from the bus. And they had said yes. So they lied to me. It happens, and normally I wouldn't worry about it. I tell him, "Well, it sounds like I made a mistake. I guess it's their lucky night." That's my hint to him that he should let it go. That's not good enough for him. He gets louder and keeps demanding I refund his $4 to keep things fair. I've had it with him. I tell him, "You're right. It's not fair. Let me fix it for you." He smirks because he thinks he's getting a refund. But he doesn't realize all I'm giving is some sweet malicious compliance. His smirk disappeared when I stepped away from the cash drawer and walked over to where his friends were sitting. In my most polite voice, I said, "Hey, sorry to bother you guys, but there's a $2 cover tonight and your friend here told me you didn't pay. I must have misheard you when I asked if you were with the party bus, but I need to collect the cover from you now." The looks of betrayal they gave him were priceless. I collected their covers, smiled, and loudly thanked him for being so honest. Then I walked back to my post and watched them proceed to rip him a new one. In the comments, OP added, "He also lost his remaining pride later in the night when we threw him out." I left this out of the story since it took place after the malicious compliance, but I'm happy to share after the fact. He was raging at me for embarrassing him in front of all of his friends, and he kept walking past me trying to stare me down. He would do the whole try to make you flinch thing. I refused to bite and just kept smiling. Eventually, he tried to escalate things by talking trash to me. The thing is, everything he threw at me I'd already heard 100 times before, so I just kept smiling. Since insults didn't work, he moved in really close, like I can smell your Axe body spray close, and says, "Why don't we go outside and I'll make you disappear? Your family will never know what happened to you." I poked my head around his and said to my partner, who was standing right behind him, "He needs to go." He was the muscle. I was the friendly old guy, and we made a great team. Without a word, he put him in a bear hug and carried him out the door like a misbehaving toddler. OP, great share. $4. Really, buddy? You're willing to make yourself look like a total Nimrod for $4. You must have known your friends pulled a fast one to get in for free. And you didn't see this backfiring? This is like when small dogs get all yappy with a Great Dane or a German Shepherd. This idiot thinks he's big time. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.